Welcome back to another episode of Prospect Watch presented to you by the RookieHQ. And we're here to do what we always do. So today we're going to discuss a rookie, and we're going to discuss one of my favorite rookies, a guy who played his college football not far away from where old Chev GPT is located at the University of Arkansas. We're going to talk about Mike Washington Jr., 6 foot, 228 pound running back that he had previous stops at Buffalo as a 2-star recruit, redshirted there, and then has the program record for longest touchdown run at 92 yards. And then he transferred from Buffalo to New Mexico, where he was second on the team in rushing, led in rushing touchdowns while splitting snaps with fellow NFL draft prospect hopeful Seth McGowan. He averaged 21.4 yards per kick return there on 4 returns. So that's a little bit of background about Mr. Mike Washington Jr. The biggest thing surrounding him right now would be his birthday, which Miss Patricia Washington seemed to clear up in some player profiler comments earlier this week. So with Mike Washington, it's pretty simple. He was the only threat on the Arkansas offense in 2025, and that led to 1,000 yards rushing, another 200 yards receiving, and he ran the 8th most routes amongst running backs this year, finished with 28 receptions on 36 targets. And this just kind of belies a skill set that's underrated for someone who is as large as he is. He's a true throwback to yesteryear in terms of his size and his receiving profile and the ability to get loose in space. So, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So after this successful campaign where he was the only bright spot or one of the only bright spots for the University of Arkansas, he went off to the Senior Bowl, where he stated with my co-host on Two Guys, One Pod, Addison, that his goal there was to set himself apart and let scouts know that he's a 3-down back. And he did that successfully. He was able to catch passes. He looked very fluid in the one-on-one drills versus linebackers. So that raised his profile even more. And then the thing that got people the most excited, the spreadsheet zaddies were all over it when they found out that Mike Washington Jr. clocked over 21 miles an hour on the GPS tracking. And that's matching up with what is present all over his film. So we have proof and we got double proof. So we had the long breakout runs. He was 4th and runs over 15 yards and over 500 breakaway yards in 2025. And then he gives you 21 miles an hour at the Senior Bowl. So we just confirm it. Then on top of that, he's got great scheme versatility. He had 72 zone runs and 90 runs out of gap, which is power, counter, traps, all that good stuff in 2025. So you've got a big, versatile back with a skill set that allows him to flourish in gap schemes and in zone schemes. So again, aligning with the versatility that you would like to see out of a back in today's NFL. But then we move on to the fact that what he did at the University of Arkansas, it defied convention. You had plays where his offensive linemen looked like they were literally cosplaying WWE and power bombing each other, getting in position to try to pile drive each other instead of actually blocking defenders. So when you have things like that are the case, this is the type of nonsense that Mike Washington was able to rush for 1,000 yards in the toughest conference, or second toughest if you're a Big Ten truther, in the country. So first goes to Buffalo, just to recap here, goes to Buffalo, leads them in rushing, then transfers, shares a backfield with another NFL prospect, leads them in rushing touchdowns, then transfers up to the SEC, and he's able to flourish behind an offensive line that was more interested in playing Undertaker than they were actually blocking other people. So all that to me just screams that he is a man of persistence, and that's what you need to see out of a running back of his size. He's not an easy tackle. He was at over 3.8 yards after contact per attempt this year. Some of the notables, Jadarian Price was over 4 yards, along with Jeremiah Love also being over 4 yards after contact per attempt. So slightly below that. But let's talk about some of his NFL comparisons. And this is what makes me the most excited, because if we can get to the ceiling outcome, and I'll discuss some of the opportunities that he has in a bit, but if he can hit his ceiling, we're talking about guys like his blend of size and speed remind me of some of the taller backs of yesteryear, like a Latavius Murray, a noted runway runner that has a style that doled out punishment, but also was also able to thrive in short yardage situations despite being a taller back and not letting people get into his lower body. Deonta Foreman, another physical bruising back with light feet that could lull defenders to sleep before punishing them or making a miss. And the most fun one, if it hits. Now, Joe Mixon was a different animal in college, and Joe Mixon is one of my favorite players, but I do see elements of Joe Mixon to his game. He doesn't quite have the lateral agility Joe Mixon had at the University of Oklahoma, but this could be the ceiling outcome for him. And I mean, honestly, it's hard not to see shades of a guy like Omarion Hampton when you're talking about the long speed with a big physical bruising back with the soft hands and the ability to contribute in the passing game. So we just saw Omarion Hampton go in the first round. I don't think Mike Washington's going to get first round draft capital. Don't want to get ahead of myself because I want to make sure that we'll get to it when we get to it. And then a couple other guys that he reminded me of, Stephen Ridley from back in the day at LSU, 6 foot, 223. And then Rashad. We got to get a handle on this whole Pam situation. But Rashad Mendenhall from the Pittsburgh Steelers, University of Illinois, just a couple other fun comps for the culture. So Washington's talent is, his skill set is that of a lighter, smaller running back. Some of the guys that are more along the lines of 200, 210 to 215 or, 200 to 215. But he's a bigger back that I think that he's going to absolutely shock some people when we get to the combine this week. So I'm looking forward to seeing that with, I think he's going to run really fast. I think he's going to be better than people think in the agility drills. And I think he's going to catch the ball well, because that's something that he's wanted to focus on to show NFL teams that he's capable of doing. We've given you all the good, all right? This dude could be the second coming of Derrick Henry or Omarion Hampton or DeMarco Murray, but there's one big glaring issue. He's got 10 fumbles in his career. Now, he only lost one fumble in 2025, but this is an area of concern that's gotten brought up quite a bit. But what it does tell me is that if he only fumbled once in 2025, that is something that he was keenly aware of, and he knows, you got to protect the church's money. So if you're going to contribute on Sundays, you can't be at risk for the team to lose possession of the football when they put the ball in your hands. So that's one area. Another area is the change of direction. It's good for a bigger back, but it's not elite like a guy like Joe Mixon was. So interesting to see how the combine tells us about what he's going to be able to do on the field, on the drill, like in the drills on the field. Sorry, I got a little tongue tied there, but I'm really excited about Mike Washington, but we've got to get through some of the things that I feel like he could work on. Now, the questions about his upside as a pass catcher, I want to see. We saw him at the Senior Bowl running different routes. He runs really good choice routes, and he was able to just straight up run by a linebacker on a wheel route. It's going to be interesting to see what his skill set aligns with or how he's deployed once he's at the next level. So moving through all that to talk about his fantasy outlook, because ultimately that's why we're here. He looks like a throwback that could easily get day 2 draft capital if all the testing comes back really good. I think that the on-field drills will tell us ultimately the story. Washington stated that his goal at the Senior Bowl was to prove he could be a 3-down back, as we alluded to before. And if teams are convinced that he can do that, that's easy day 2 capital. So now we need to get into his fantasy outlook. So Washington looks like a throwback to yesteryear, a big back that could easily get day 2 capital if the testing numbers come out good. The on-field drills go well. He stated that his goal at the Senior Bowl, as we've alluded to before, was to prove that he could be a 3-down back in the league, and teams could be convinced that he could do that. You saw him catching passes at Arkansas. You saw him catching passes at the Senior Bowl and running choice routes and wheel routes and looking pretty proficient in doing so. If he gets day 2 draft capital, I'm pretty convinced that he's going to come off the board as a, as the RB2 in this class and in your dynasty rookie drafts. So if he gets day 3 capital, I think that kind of puts us in flux a little bit, where he could come off the board as the running back 4 of the rookie class, all the way down to running back 8. There's some people who are taped to the bicycle about Kaytron Allen. I think personally the ceiling is so much higher on a guy like Mike Washington that I'm really excited to have him test. And if he tests a little bit poorly and I can get a discount on Mike Washington, I would be doing so. So all that said, I do think that he could be a low-end RB1 for fantasy, and he possesses the tools, the toughness, and the speed to immediately contribute on Sundays. So if you made it this far, thank you for listening, liking, downloading, commenting, subscribing. Tell me where you have Mike Washington. Currently, he's my RB4. A lot of people are getting steamed up. Like I said, Miss Washington, Patricia Washington, dropped off the news that he was born on July 3rd, 2003 in the comments of a video on Player Profiler. Shout out to Johnny Tuma. And so now people are a lot more bullish about his prospects. But hey, if you made it this far, thank you again. And as I always leave you, there's ball watchers and ball knowers. Assign yourselves accordingly. We'll see you in the next video.